Last week, the Ottawa Citizen published a couple of news items related to an incident that took place on the Canadian military's forward base in Latvia. The two stories revealed just how a Department of National Defense D&D civilian employee continues to battle resistance from her former employers over the sexual assault she faced in that workplace. It is time to target just how the senior leadership bungled and continues to bungle their handling of this particular case. Back in October 2023, Ottawa Citizen reporter David Puglisi first broke the story that Kristen Adams had been sexually assaulted by an Albanian soldier on the NATO base in Latvia. What made the story exceptionally newsworthy was the fact that when Adams reported the assault, she was told by her employers she should have realized she faced such dangers when accepting a job supporting Canada's military mission in Latvia. I can understand that when a soldier voluntarily enlists, they realize they are entering a contract which entails unlimited liability in that they could be killed in the line of duty. However, I cannot fathom a civilian position within the Canadian Department of National Defense that comes with the inherent risk of sexual assault. To recap events as they unfolded, Kristen Adams was employed by the Canadian Forces Morale and Welfare Services, CFMWS, to support Canada's forward deployed battle group in Latvia. On December 3, 2022, she was working at the Commons Canteen on Camp Adazai, which is open to all the NATO contingents stationed there. According to Adams, she greeted an Albanian soldier whom she knew, and he proceeded to grab her left breast without her consent. Following this action, the Albanian reportedly commented to Adams, quote, "Oh, you're very strong." Shortly thereafter, Adams reported the incident to the Canadian Military Police, who promptly told her that under NATO rules, they had no jurisdiction to investigate. As a result, Latvian military police were brought in to examine the case. After interviewing only Adams and the accused, on December 14, 2022, the Latvians notified the Canadian military police that the investigation was concluded, without providing any further details. While it was outside their jurisdiction, the Canadian MPs created a, quote, shadow file of Adams' case, which did not dispute Adams' version of events. On December 3, 2022, the victim was working as a civilian employee when a military member from another nation touched them inappropriately and without consent, and, quote, the D&D shadow file concluded. No charges were laid against the Albanian, and on February 3, 2023, CFMWS informed Adams that her contract was being terminated 2 months early in order to ensure there is no further risk to Adams' health. The real kicker came 3 months later when Ben Ouellette, a vice president of CFMWS, wrote a letter to Adams. It read in part, "As you were made aware during pre-deployment training, which occurred from 6 to 15 September 2022, there are risks involved in deploying to a theater of operations where numerous countries work and live together, and of the cultural differences that exist. In accepting to deploy, you were taking on a certain risk of working in this environment." Come again? Does Mr. Ouellette truly believe there is a culture on this planet wherein males can simply grope women's breasts? Given that by the time Ouellette sent Adams this note, the nationality of the accused was well known, so are we to assume that Ouellette believes this is the cultural norm in Albania? How is this man the vice president of anything? Furthermore, all the soldiers at Camp Adazai are members of NATO, and therefore, they are considered to be the defenders of the shared values which we purport to collectively defend. Why then would Adams be at risk of sexual assault while in Latvia? After the Ottawa Citizen's first story broke, there was an internal backlash among the CFMWS employees as to how a fellow staffer had been thrown under the bus. This prompted CFMWS Chief Executive Officer, retired Major General Ian Poulter, to issue an apology to all CFMWS staff for the manner in which this affair had been handled. The one person who did not receive an apology from Poulter was Adams. The documents obtained by Adams reveal that no apology was sent to her for fear that the mea culpa would prompt further stories in the Ottawa Citizen. Well, it turns out their prediction came true. In the interest of full disclosure, I served with Poulter from 1984 to 1986, and I considered him a bright young officer. We have remained friendly, if not friends, over the years, and I must say, these actions are not those of the man I once knew. He knew that CFMWS had failed Adams, and he formally admitted so to all the employees, but he would not make that same admission to the victim for fear of repercussions in the media. That is not leadership. Those are the actions of a bureaucrat who puts the reputation of the institution ahead of the welfare of the victim. This has been On Target. and I'm Scott Taylor.